All right, it's 7 o'clock. Welcome to the commission meeting of August 7th. We will start by saying the pledge.
United States of America. To the Republic. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Skeleton crew here tonight, so bear with us. Bear with me. I'd like to start with Youth with Christ wants to do a community open house, and they're inviting everybody to come to the Old Zion Church. And there'll be a lunch. And they just want to give everybody a tour, so that is August 10th from 12 to 1. All right. So we have the minutes for the July 17th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Which one is second? Yes. Motion passed. Applications and approval of the agenda.
We believe we need to, if we could add a 1% onto the agenda. I'll make a motion. Yes, I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda with adding the 1% application.
I hate to pop in, but we actually need to add one more item if possible. We kind of need to have a discussion of the Pine Ridge Street assessment for vacation of the streets that developed very recently and it didn't make the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with adding the Pine Ridge and the 1%.
I'll second. Okay. The motion is second, vote? Yes.
Yes.
Motion passed. Any other additions to the agenda anybody wants? So we'll go to old business meeting report.
Okay, I know we have a busy agenda this evening, a bit busier one now, I suppose. So I'll try to kind of work through this methodically. As I indicated earlier, we have had a couple of times, and I'll just give you kind of an upfront idea of the Pine Ridge situation. There was the discussion of a special assessment to complete the streets out there that was bid several years ago. The initial bid, I think, was in the neighborhood of $600,000. In the intervening time between that initial estimate and present, the cost of construction has skyrocketed, very literally. And so when those numbers came back in and became subject to discussion for potential assessment, it was just not feasible for the party that would have otherwise been assessed. So the proposal, just so you guys know, segueing later on the agenda, is that Pine Ridge would like to reassume the roadways there, which would mean the city would have to undertake vacation process to return those roadways to Pine Ridge, and then Pine Ridge has indicated a desire once that construction and work is complete to return them to the city because they believe they could theoretically do it at far less expense than what we're being told it would cost. So when we hit that point on the agenda, we can discuss the process that exists under our ordinances and state statutes, and it's something we've done in the past, that it would require commission approval and consideration to go that route. So more on that later. But that is certainly an item that we should be discussing this evening. Because I think it's something they very much wish to discuss and something that needs to get done. I note, and I want to be careful about how I say this, but I think it's important that I say it. I don't think it's any secret that there's quite a bit of, and has been quite a bit of controversy over the community center. I mean, we'd be silly not to recognize that. There's been years of discussion on that point. And I want to be very clear before I say what I'm about to say, that at this commission and this city, public debate is welcome. It's encouraged. I mean, that's how democracies flourish, is by people expressing their beliefs and people listening to the beliefs of others. And through that process and through debate and through disagreement, actually, that's how we reach our best conclusions as a society. At least that's what you believe if you believe in a democracy, and I think most of us here do. However, when you are trying to have a productive debate, it is extremely valuable. And I would tell you this is the truth in courtrooms, and this is the truth in real life. It is extremely important that we recognize that we can have our own opinions, but we don't get to have our own facts. And so there are some facts that have been offered by citizens, which I think misinform the public at large and misinform the conversation. And of course, if you misinform people, you're probably going to come to very poor conclusions. So I'm going to do my best to clarify some of that. And I'm not picking on anyone in particular or anything specific, but I do want to make some clarifications. To the extent that it's been reported that any member of this commission or any member of this city has attempted to sneak or decline or avoid a meeting or an appearance of any member of the public, that is patently false. I've been at the city for years now, and as long as you turn in your requests to appear on the agenda, no matter what you want to talk about, we welcome it. And you should come talk about it, and the commissioners will certainly listen to you. So to any degree that anyone has been led to believe or has been told that any member of this commission or city government tried to dodge the appearance of a citizen, that's wrong. And it's not true, and you shouldn't rely on that. You remain welcome to have the discussions. Secondly, to the degree that it's been floated that the city approved a loan with an interest rate of up to and only up to 2%, that misstates the motion that's before the commission. I'm going to eliminate confusion because I do not want to deal with confusion down the road, and I invite the commissioners to fill in additional blanks. What was actually being discussed for clarification, I think, and I can stand corrected, was a proviso in House Bill 1229, which offered the opportunity to finance community centers within the state of North Dakota at interest rates at about 2%. That is an opportunity. That's not a promise, and it's not a cap. And so while certainly the city would attempt to pursue a loan for the community center that would be at the lowest possible interest rate, so that makes good sense in any setting. The motion of the commission didn't cap the potential loan at 2%. That was a hopeful number, relying on information relative to the House bill. But that should be clarified. And in fairness to anyone who was operating under that, I guess, impression, I know that that discussion was probably, maybe it was a little confusing. And so fair question, fair assertion. And, oh, I'm sorry, 1292. Thank you, Abby. I told you I'd stand corrected. House Bill 1292. So, boy, I'm dyslexic there. I said 1229. Good catch. You'd have been looking a long time if you looked up that number. In any event, I think that was a confusing discussion. And so if anybody was misunderstood what that means, I want to be straight and tell you that, you know, that's optimistic. A 2% loan would be fabulous. Whether or not that's actually how it comes to pass is a different question. And that will come through the work of bond council and the community center committee, which is later on the agenda tonight, and other planning. So we should clarify that. The next thing that I want to address, because it gets a little bit sticky. I think we've said before, I know I've said it before because we've had controversy in the city in the past. We very much embrace the First Amendment here, and even difficult speech is important speech. Unpopular speech is important speech. That's critical. And I want the community to know that. So oppositional speech and difficult speech and unpopular speech is again as welcome here as anything else. But it is very difficult. It is very difficult to hear and read that legal actions on the part of the commission are being deemed even illegal. And I want to be clear that as I've watched things transpire in the city, particularly with regard to the community center, I want to be very, very clear that I haven't seen any quote unquote illegal activity occur. And so to the degree that that's being circulated, I'm going to squash that right here. And if anybody knows anything specific or has a particular complaint, procedural or substantive, about something that they perceive to be illegal on the part of this commission, boy, I sure hope you call legal counsel and tell me. Because if there was an illegality, I represent the public. Excuse me, I'm still speaking, and then I'm sure someone will let you speak. It's welcome. But I represent the public as much as I represent this commission. That's what city's legal counsel does. So if anybody ever has a concern that this commission is doing something illegal, pick up the phone and call the city attorney, because that's how we remediate those things if in fact they exist. Allegations about that type of thing are serious. We should treat illegalities on the part of government as being serious, not as being party favors in a controversial debate. Those are serious allegations, and it's inappropriate to make them unless they're grounded in truth. I hope that we can continue the debate about the community center. I don't want anyone to take what I'm saying as being, I'm not for or against this, just to be clear. I actually don't have an opinion. I can see the value of both sides of the argument. I'll tell you what I've told 100 other lawyers when I've mediated situations as a neutral party. It is sometimes helpful to these conversations, no matter what the issue is, to know what you're arguing about. And secondly, to separate whether or not those arguments are actually about the thing or whether or not they've devolved into something personal. And I'll tell you that I think that sometimes this argument stems from people arguing apples and oranges instead of apples to apples or oranges to oranges. And I think also that sometimes these arguments become personal, and I would tell you that both of those things are counterproductive. So as you frame your arguments and positions, maybe make sure you're communicating what you're actually arguing about with precision, because that's how, productive argument happens. There are other points in the agenda. Where I'll weigh in. We have some easement work and some other things that may come up. So as I need it, I will pop up. I will also let you know that I'm not being rude. I'm going to get a 5-minute warning on a meeting that I have to attend. I hope it will be brief. It's at another council meeting in another city. And I'm sorry that I have conflict, but I will have to step out to take that call. I will try to make it as quickly as possible. So if I step out during the meeting, I haven't left you, I'll be back. But that's likely to happen at some point this evening. And I appreciate everyone's time and eyes and ears.
Bob Anderson. I guess I'd like to address, I don't know, it looks like, number one would be when you guys voted on that loan, the last meeting, it was based on the 2% loan. And that's how you guys all voted on. So I don't know how you can say now that that's not. Another thing I'd like to say is when they had them committee meetings down at the community center, you were not allowed to go to them, and there was no minutes to them. We tried to get minutes, they said they didn't have it. So my question always was, how does the committee get that information to the city commissioners? Nobody had an answer. Does that sound like that's a bad allegation when you can't get no information? And I guess there's something else I want to talk about that. What was the other thing? Should have wrote down. Because you were talking a lot there, so.
Occupational hazard. Go ahead.
They'll probably come up, but I'll remember it, but right now I don't, but there's, that community center was closed. And you could not get not one word of information relaying on the whole thing. And that's the truth.
To the degree, Mr. Anderson, and I think it's important that you ask these questions. And I mean, I actually do
Oh,
think, go
I
ahead,
remember.
good deal.
So last time I was here, you guys accepted my agenda, right? And I asked for communication, discussion, and a vote on paying off that other loan. I never got one commissioner to talk one word. You talked and you talked. And the commissioners all had their head down. When you accepted that agenda, you should have at least given me the respect to answer me back. That's my point.
Bob, I've talked to you about that before, about that committee, and Sean, you were on the committee. How many decisions were made?
You haven't,
None. There was no president, there was no vice president, there was no secretary. They never even got that far.
you never
So you
talked to
can't
me about
expect
that,
minutes.
but
I also
Whatever.
want to add that when you asked to be part or that when you asked to attend one of those meetings, there was never a meeting afterwards. That's why they never invited you,
yeah, I got
because
canceled.
there was never a meeting. So that's why there was no secret meeting. There was never.
This looks awful suspicious, you know what I'm saying? All this stuff is pretty suspicious.
Bob, it's fair and good, actually, as an American, to be suspicious of government. I've never warned a citizen against that. And that's fair. But when you have suspicions, you investigate them. And I can assure you, and you're certainly entitled to them if you wish to request them. I have assisted Abby in filling more open records requests serially, week by week, with some of your colleagues, actually, than I have on any other topic in the last 3 years. So whatever records exist, and there are records, you're entitled to them if you ask for them, and you will receive them. Tonight on the agenda, as I'm sure you saw, there will be discussion of forming a committee, a formal committee for the community center. There are many, many people who put in letters of interest. That's a really good thing. There's a lot of people that are interested in this endeavor, no matter what their opinions are. So it sounds like this has been a really good showing of volunteerism, and either for or against, it's a really good opportunity for people to join and become part of that committee. Abby's right, but there was previously no committee formed. It didn't formally exist. To the degree, Bob, that you felt left out in the woods, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but it really is, it's a misimpression on your part, not a point of fact. And we're all entitled to our opinions, but we're not entitled to our own facts. And that's the important thing to remember.
All right, we got more engineering. Josh online.
Yes, good evening. Few items to go through this evening with you guys. The first being South Main Street reconstruction. Over the last week or so, we've been starting to get costs pulled together for the repairs on that project. I anticipate having something finalized for review at the next meeting. So we'll have that further updates on that coming soon. Northeast Tioga reconstruction phase 2, that project, things are continuing to move on that. Still behind schedule. I think things have probably picked up a little bit on it. The sewer and water replacement on 3rd Street between Gilbertson and Hoseth is complete. And also on Hoseth Street between 2nd and 4th is getting close to being complete with the sewer and water as well. So that for utility work, that kind of leaves the sewer and water on Gilbertson from 3rd to 4th Street, as well as Hoseth Street north of 4th through the park shop building area there, and then also sewer on 4th Street between Gilbertson and Hoseth. So still a couple, about 2.5 blocks or so of sewer and water left to be completed on that. And then they're looks like they're going to be starting some concrete work here. Their crew was in town today, getting things set up and whatnot. So hopefully in the next week or so, some concrete work will start occurring on that project. So it's kind of where that one sits. Is there any questions related to that at this point? Okay. Now I'll move on to the Tioga Dam Emergency Action Plan and Safety Improvements. I have Josh Hassel joining me this evening to kind of go through that and help with the discussion. We did hold a meeting with Commissioner Steele and Christensen on July 25th to kind of dive into a little bit more detail on it, but I did ask Josh to join us this evening to kind of summarize some of the discussion there and answer any questions that there may be. So I'll turn it over to you, Josh, and I guess we can go from there if there's any questions or anything. So feel free to let us know. So.
Good evening, commissioners. As Josh said, my name is Josh Hassel. I'm the Water Resources Group Leader here at Moore Engineering here. And so just a little bit of background here. So this is a 2-part project. We've got the geotechnical investigation that's going to be ongoing here to evaluate the seepage and come up with alternatives to try to address that seepage and make sure that the dam is functioning from a safety standpoint geotechnically. And then the second piece that I've been heavily involved in is the hydraulic evaluation of the dam. There have been a number of reports that have been done in the past that have indicated that the dam does not meet current dam design standards from a hydraulic standpoint. And so part of what we want to do as our scope of work here is to provide you guys some guidance on what would need to be done to modify the dam to bring it into compliance if the state were to require it to be brought into compliance, if any other action had been taken on the dam geotechnically. Any modification to a dam facility in the state of North Dakota does require a construction permit from the Department of Water Resources. And as part of some of those modifications, if they're significant enough, that the state or the Department of Water Resources could require you to bring that dam into compliance hydraulically. And so that's why where that component that we've kind of started on here is coming into play. So ultimately, I'll kind of give you just a brief background, and we've got some maps and stuff that I can share with the commission and provide as well. Ultimately, the Tioga Dam is a high hazard dam, which means that class 4 high hazard dam, I should clarify, which means that it must pass the 50-year, 24-hour design event through the spillway such that the emergency spillway is not utilized at all. If the dam is not capable of passing that event, that emergency spillway or the secondary spillway would need to be structural. And then the other criteria is that it must pass the probable maximum precipitation or probable maximum flood without overtopping the dam. And so those are the 2 crucial criteria under the current 1985 dam design criteria that need to be met. What we have done as part of our hydraulic evaluation is basically we've identified and remodeled things to because the previous modeling that was done is a little bit dated. We're about 9 years past that. So some rainfalls have been updated and different methodologies on that probable maximum precipitation, which is a significant flood event. So we've updated the models that have been created. And then we've started to run scenarios that would bring the dam into compliance hydraulically. And before I go forward here, I do want to note that the state has also released some draft safety standards that they may be adopting here in the near future. And so some of what we're talking about today may end up changing if they fully adopt those safety standards here. The comment period for those dam safety standards ends on August 14th, so next week. And my guess is it'll take some time for them to kind of process that and release a full new version of those dam safety standards. But to kind of get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts here, into the weeds. So we've evaluated a number of different alternatives to address that dam hydraulically and to bring it into compliance. There's a couple different ways that you can do it. There's one, you can increase capacity and make that primary spillway bigger. Right now, it's a weir structure with an 18-inch RC reinforced concrete pipe through it. So you can make that larger and pass more water through on the smaller events. You can increase the storage by reducing the normal water pool that's behind the dam, what's typical. Or you can increase storage by potentially moving an embankment and adding additional storage that way, which would require moving the spillway or moving any one of the embankments to provide additional storage. And so we've kind of taken a couple of those techniques and factored it in. And so just to kind of give you an idea on what it would take to bring the dam into compliance, as it sits today with the normal pool at that weir elevation, it would require a 72-inch RCP reinforced concrete pipe to be installed as the primary spillway, which is much larger and would again pass a lot more water through that primary spillway during normal operational conditions. If you were to add some additional storage by moving one of the embankments, we could get that down to a 66-inch. But there are some concerns on that because that water does have to move through town downstream. And so another alternative that we evaluated to try to keep that primary spillway about the same size, that 18-inch, is lower than normal pool about 5.5 feet to provide additional storage and additional bounce during those events, those design events. That 5.5 feet with that 18-inch would meet the dam design requirements hydraulically. The last kind of alternative in that window that we looked at was kind of a hybrid of lowering the principal spillway, the primary spillway, about 3.5 feet, and then also adding some additional storage by moving the embankments. And then you can, by doing that, you are still able to keep and maintain that 18-inch pipe that's there today. One of the other criteria that you could meet just without modifying that principal spillway is you could take that emergency spillway, which is currently a grass spillway, and you could make that structural. That would meet the current design requirements as well. But the last alternative that we looked at, which seems to be, if something does need to happen in the future moving forward with permitting, would be to actually take the emergency spillway and raise it up about a little over 3 feet. And what that does is that also provides additional storage capacity, and therefore that emergency spillway is not used during that 50-year event. This would allow you to maintain that 18-inch pipe that's through there with the same normal pool. The only other unique feature that would have to happen on this is there are a couple low points in the dam that would need to be raised slightly by about a tenth of a foot or 1.2 inches on the west side of the pool, which is embankment F. There'd be a couple portions over there that would need to be raised slightly to make sure the dam does not overtop during that large PMP event. So at this point, this is kind of a summary of kind of what we've dug into and where we're at on the hydraulic side. There is no decision that's necessary by the commission today. Again, this is just more informational to kind of give you an idea and let you process where we may need to discuss moving forward in the future if bringing the dam into compliance hydraulically is required by the state. But that is not something that does need to be addressed today. But with that, I guess I'll take a pause here and see if there are any questions that I can help answer and address. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you here, so.
We kicked around a few things, but you know, we want to do the simplest, and cheapest problems. Which is crazy.
Has anybody out there ever seen the dam flood? By any chance? Have you ever heard of the dam flooding? I feel like it's always so low. I was just curious if anybody was aware.
Because it's leaking.
Well, correct, right now,
But it
yes.
used to go all the time in the park, come all the way down south. Well, I guess you can call the insurance company, they can tell you.
And I apologize, I did miss a couple of those comments from the public, but the one comment that I did hear, you know, the cheapest option, which at this point would be that emergency spillway raise, that would be the cheapest option. But again, that's not something that's required right now to do it. But if you did do a larger project geotechnically to address the seepage that's going through, that is something that you could do as part of that project to bring the dam into compliance with those 85 standards. But it wouldn't necessarily, it may not be required by the state at the time those permits are submitted. But it could be that the state always has that ability to require you to bring it as long as you're doing a significant improvement, like I mentioned.
Anybody else? Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome. And like I said, I will pass on these maps and stuff that we have through Josh to you guys. And then if any questions do come up, feel free to reach out to Josh or myself if you guys have any ideas after you've heard this discussion. I'd be more than happy to talk through some alternatives potentially with you guys if there was something that came up.
Thank you. Josh, you still got a few more things?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm still here, so thank you. So moving on, the next item I have is 3rd Street Northwest and North Hanson Street reconstruction. Project is moving along well. They're probably a little ahead of schedule, I would say. 3rd Street, the sewer and water are complete between Torning and 4th Street, and the roadway has been rebuilt there. They have the gravel down and putting that back together, so curb and gutter and sidewalk and paving can proceed in that area here in the coming weeks. They've started the sewer and water installation on 3rd Street between 4th and 5th. Next few days they should be wrapping up that component of the project. And then Hanson Street, just along the east side of the pool area there, that sewer and water should be complete as well here, likely prior to the end of this week. So major utility work on that project should be wrapped up by the end of this week with a few minor items remaining related to utility work. So roadway building and all that should be kind of after this week should be basically what what we see going on out there. So any questions related to that project? Okay, KS Industries Water and Sewer Extension. No real updates on that project. I know they've been talking with some contractors on some potential getting some different costs pulled together for that, since the initial quotes they received were rather high. So I haven't heard any real update from their end on that. So Pine Ridge subdivision roadway improvements, that bid opening was held on July 20th. One bid was received on that project from Crow River Construction. The bid tabulation is included in your packet for that. Their bid was $1,132,202.50. Yes, related to the award of that bid, we did Abby, Dan, and myself, we did hold a meeting with the Pine Ridge ownership group last week, and they do have concerns with the cost of that project, and just basically what they would be able to sell lots for, not being able to cover that cost. So from our discussion, the kind of end was to not award the bid, and different avenues of construction of that project would be looked at down the road for future consideration. So
Josh, do you need a formal motion to decline the award at this time, or what are you?
yeah, that would be appropriate. If that's the route the commission wants to go, is motion to reject the bid received on the project.
I don't blame them for backing out of that. That's be an awful lot to assess few people. So
Yeah, it's more than twice the original estimate several years earlier.
Yeah.
That was a bigger shock for them.
I'll make a motion.
Also,
Motion in a second. Yes.
yes,
Right, motion passed.
Next item I have is the soccer field design and floodway modeling. Dan and I met with the gentleman from Hess that's kind of leading the charge on that project last week, and it sounds like they're going to be starting to move some dirt here, hopefully in the next few weeks, and they'll kind of as they have downtime on other jobs, they're gonna be out there working on that. So just wanted to give everyone a heads up that there'll be some activity out there here. And the last item related to that one is the access off of Front Street, just west of Dakota Street there. That's been having some discussions on getting right away through there. So we're working on evaluating property limits and ownership there for dedication of right away. So we'll be continuing to work on that. So once that field is complete, the access will be off that end of Front Street. So any questions related to that project?
See none.
Okay, next item is the SCADA system expansion. I believe I did talk with Preferred Controls on that earlier or end of last week. And we're anticipating getting some finalized estimates and cost proposals for options on expansion of the SCADA system to bring on critical sewer and water infrastructure into the city's SCADA system. And with that, that is all I have this evening, unless if there are any other items you have.
So I don't know, Josh, we alluded to last meeting, having a meeting with Strata about that construction on Northeast there.
Yep.
You wanna say a few things, or you want me to, or just kind of update?
Yeah, maybe if you would, Tim, and I can add to it. That may be a little easier. Either way, it's fine though.
Okay, well, we asked for a meeting with some management with Strata to kind of have a plan. And we had a meeting, and they have every intention of finishing this project, so I don't know.
Are they gonna, I mean, they showed you a plan that's gonna finish it though?
Well, they think they can get it done, but say they're still maybe not quite on pace. Do you think, Josh?
What was that, Tim?
I mean, I don't think they're still on pace to finish. Do you think?
No, they're, you know, they're definitely still behind schedule. I mean, with the rate that things are going, it is going to be very tight, I would say. You know, if they're able to get some of these the roads where they do have utilities complete already, if they're able to get the curb and sidewalks and asphalt paved, I think there's a chance, but it is still kind of out there that if you know the utility work continues to progress how it has been, there may be some challenges with completion of it this year.
Right, thank you. So then
Excellent.
to the economic development.
Well, I'm gonna go through it as quickly as possible. So for meetings that I've had, since the last met, which was the end of July, I met with some high school students to talk about the backyard art project, which we have coming up. That will be launching this fall for, the high school art class. They have chosen the wall that they are going to do a mural on. But I can kind of do a little bit of a reveal on that. So I'll wait to let you know exactly which wall that's going to be. But it will be in one of our alleys downtown here. July 27th, we had Vision West, I'm sorry, Western Regional meeting in Williston. There is a job fair coming up in Williston. This is a regional job fair, not just a Williston one. So that's on September 14th at the Wilson State College. Employers can still sign up and you do get to take their booth this year. They are also working on developing a resource page for their businesses for the region as well. July 28th, met with Placer AI, which is a software company that tracks foot traffic. I sent over some information to the commission president as well as the auditor for review for a little bit more investigation into that tool. And then the next meeting that I had was with the self-service kayak rental company, which in your packet, you guys will see a little PDF that they put together, but basically what it is a company called Rent Fund, and they have smart lockers, which if you've seen the like scooters that you can scan and ride around like Wilson or other big cities, it's like that, but for kayaks.
One of the things that they have realized that, you know, a lot of cities are putting a lot of money into waterfront property, whether it's Tioga Dam, in hopes that people will use it recreationally, but not a lot of people actually own kayaks. So this is a way for people to get more use out of the dam, without having to spend $700 on a new kayak. They can rent one for 2 hours for $25. If that's something that they would like to move into. They come in with these little walker things. But basically you would walk up, scan with your phone, pay for rental. When you're done with it, you scan it, put it back in there. You have to take a picture of it to make sure that the life jacket is in there and the paddle and everything is together. If something is missing, then they automatically will put that unit on a maintenance mode. There is a one-time fee for the city. There would not be a renewal cost after that. And then there's a revenue share option as well afterwards. So the city has the option to recoup the cost of the investment. If the city would like to have a lower fee for people to rent, we could bypass the revenue share and have a lower rental fee for people, whichever you would like to do. This company we would just pay for the initial investment. They would hire someone within a 30-minute drive of Tioga to be the person to fix anything that go wrong. They do bi-weekly cleanings of all the equipment as well. And it does run off of solar panels and self-service, so we wouldn't have to run utilities out to it. In the last 150 rentals, they've had one life jacket go missing. Otherwise, it has been a pretty easygoing operation. That one investment for the city, there have 4-unit lockers, 8-unit lockers, and 12-unit lockers. The 4-unit locker would be a one-time fee of $18,000, and there would be no renewal fees after that. It would guarantee that the kayak would be there. The kayak rental unit would be there for 5 years, and then after that, if nobody's using it, they can decide to leave, or we can renew with them at no charge. So at this point, I guess they don't have any questions on the kayak rentals. I know I spoke with Commissioner Christensen, still briefly on it. His thoughts on it.
What a good idea.
Yeah, one of the, driving points behind this is, a lot of people are fishing, since we're putting so much money into the dam to make it a recreational use, we're gonna have a walking trail around it. If we can get it to hold more water, then hopefully, they can stock it with walleye or different fish. But it also is a great place for kayaking as well, because it's calm water. You're not competing with bigger boats. It's a great use for recreation, but also health and wellness, as far as exercise goes. And just another opportunity for the city to create something for people to do. So, what is there to do in Tioga? Go kayaking.
We need to have a little dock or something.
Yeah, so it could, you could do it on either the north side or the south side, where there already is that boat launching space. Whatever we like to do, we can go off. Their company will come out and try and get their suggestion on which would be the best place. Well, we're definitely trying to be smart and stuff. This would be something that would be an added bonus. I agree, it would be nice to have Kevin and. Yeah, we could definitely table it until later on. As long as if we decide to move forward with it and have the agreement signed by January 1st, then we should be able to get in for a spring launch for next year. What was the cost of it? It would be for the 4-unit locker, it would be $18,000. The 8-unit locker would be $26,000.
I don't know what they're talking about.
And Chelsea, that $18,000 fee, so that guarantees a 5-year period for which they'll maintain services.
And they'll also do all the marketing for it as well.
And then an employee, a local employee.
I do have their revenue breakdown and cost share, which was also included in your packet. By the end of the 5 years with average usage, we would have made about $750 back after our investment. High usage, we could have moved anywhere up to $7,000 back. after that. They did say that there is one going in North Dakota already. Minnesota has quite a few, and Minnesota is their most frequently used kayak. Just something to think about. Next up on my agenda here, I guess, or my report is for tourism. We have gotten signed up with ndtourism.com, which is the state of tourism website. We're working on adding events like the Farm Festival, Freedom Fest, and the Medora Christmas Musical to the state calendar. We've already got the Farm Festival up there. We're just working on getting the rest of the events updated. I would like to look for the commission to look into putting together some type of pamphlet for the rest stop pamphlet program that's through the ND Tourism for 2024. That wouldn't have to be a decision we'd have to make until closer to January, is when that would be due. But just wanted to kind of get that on your radar. I did a lot of traveling over the last month and picked up a lot of different pamphlets to kind of see what's working, what's not working. And there's a lot of different towns, really small towns that do participate in the rest stop pamphlet program. As far as trainings, one training that I was really excited to attend was July 18th, which was right after our last commission meeting, which is on the work-based learning as a talent pipeline. I expect to hear a lot more from the state and local schools about this program. Essentially, it would be North Dakota is a work to learn state, so students can come in to say City Hall and for one of their class periods, and they would have a whole curriculum that would be built out with the CTE teacher. The CTE teacher is a career and technical education teacher. So we have Mallory Flavo, Mr. and Mrs. Karkoff, and the guidance counselors also a part of that as well. But they are already certified to do all of those. I have been in contact with the superintendent today. I sat down and had a meeting with him to kind of explain a little bit about this program and how I'd like for it to get started in Tioga. The Tioga Medical Center has also expressed interest in being a part of this program as well. I have gone ahead and sent a application into the Tioga Fund for Economic Development to start a incentive program for students to earn money while they're working to earn the work-based learning program. So that is going before the Tioga Fund next week. So expect to hear a little bit more about that. Essentially, this would make sure that employers would not have to pay students to learn. It would be an incentive, it would be a paycheck. But it's a really great project, and I'm really excited about the potential of that. August 2nd and 3rd, I was in Minot for the multi-state placemaking best practices workshop. So this talks about how we create more livable communities through tourism, through events, and through different things that we're putting inside our community. One of the things that they really spoke to was that people are picking where they are living before they're picking what they are doing for a job. So if you can create a town where people want to live, you're gonna have more people that are coming in for jobs as well. One of the things that I think I would really like for Tioga to look into is creating some type of an outdoor winter festival. Grand Forks has the average winter Olympics. If you haven't seen it on YouTube, I suggest you look it up. But basically, it's a contest where you are throwing snowballs at a target, shoveling keys out of the snowbank as fast as you can, pulling people on a sled uphill as a race.
And it has the potential to be something that we really celebrate and embrace the cold, because it is cold here in North Dakota. And I think we as North Dakotans, often people will move here in the summer and we're often like, oh, just wait till it gets cold. And I think we really have the opportunity to change that narrative, to embrace the cold, embrace, winter, because it's here, whether we like it or not. This is where we live. So why not take and make that our thing, our advantage.
And support of Chelsea's point there, I'm just gonna add, this is a native Alaskan. Huge deal up there. The Rendezvous has been around for years and it is amazing. It's a winter festival. It's the most cold, fun thing I've ever attended in my life. So I think that's a wonderful idea and I can't believe, I've never heard anyone in North Dakota talk about that.
Yeah, I would love for us to look into doing something along those lines. Definitely want to help spearhead that, but I want to make sure it's something people would actually attend and want to do. Could be anything from, painting on the snow, for kids that have painting on the snow with food coloring and water bottles, to hot chocolate making contests, or a chili cook-off with it too. So there's a lot of possibility for it. That would, one, be for our citizens, but also has an economic impact for bringing in people outside of our community as well. I spoke a little bit about Back LA art project. We did drop off the application last week to Tioga Fund to get funds for their supplies. We did go ahead and decide to write that or do that application before school started, so that we could ensure that the kids had the supplies to get started on that before winter hit. And the weather was a little rainy and not as conducive for painting murals. The kids will go ahead and write the application next spring for the following fall's supplies, so they will still be learning that aspect of the project as well. I'm just doing it in a different order. Our next marketing class is tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. here at City Hall. It's going to be on SEO, which is search engine optimization. So if anyone has a website, you want to make sure that they're using it to its fullest potential. We'll be diving into that here at 2 p.m. For grant writing, I also helped assist the Tioga Airport Authority for their flying event, which they are hosting over Farm Festival, and they were awarded the Williams County Tourism Grant. So I'm excited for them to move forward with that. Upcoming events, I'll be in Bismarck August 24th for the Department of Commerce Developer Days. EDND for fall conference is in September. Vision West is in Hadron in September. And then the Main Street Summit is in Wofford City in October. Question. That's tough. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's take a move on to. Yeah, focus pit. The second one right now is nothing bad. Actually, truck needs a new engine. Funny, they just don't have a bunch of them sitting around. So. Well, the cheapest one we looked at was, that you got a quote for with the Chevy Silverado, 56,000.
That's vehicle went down. That is backup, but it's gonna take 4 to 6 months. He is using the backline car that we're using in the truck. It's an old police department truck that we have that we use for other purposes. But that is on his last leg also. It's having a lot of issues, mechanical issues, and they do put a lot of in-town mileage. So he's looking for a replacement. which this year's budget has that on a vehicle. So it was on this year's budget already, that you guys approved last year.
Do we know if the vehicle's white?
He was just looking for any vehicle to have out there, so we can order one since that one's already sold. And it was 56,000. I would ask that you guys consider to maybe, do an approval up to like 60. That way he has anyone from 50 to 60 to check around and get the right color and things of that nature. And it might be 6 months to a year. You know, when you want to. We're hoping not. We were willing to take the one they have.
I told him he expect the colors. Wait.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve up to 60,000.
Motion, second.
Yes.
Motion passed.
So, since give the owner of payment presented to you guys, that as of August 30th, that'll be her last publication. She said, she did email me and say that she might have 1 week extra in September that she might publish still because there are people asking her to publish. So she might do 1 week, but that'll be the final. So I am asking, she also stated that if we wanted to consider publishing things through the journal, it wouldn't be local, but it would still be published. And the other option would be the Williston Herald, which is county newspaper, and that is who we probably should be publishing through if Tioga Tribune is not good. So I know that there is a few options that's the CEO is looking at. And hopefully it does get published so that we don't have to go outside of our town to publish things. However, at this moment, I'd like you guys to consider making a decision where to publish, just in case. We're hoping that that doesn't happen, that we do have someone to purchase the newspaper local, because there are 3 people that are looking at it. But just in case, so that there won't be any lapse in publication, I'd like you guys to consider making a decision.
So basically a conditional appointment. If the Tribune should lapse.
If the Tribune lasts, then I would have a place to publish.
You have a preference?
Make a motion for it.
Additional.
Second.
Not very impressed with the Williston Herald as of recent.
Well, we might want to pull up the statute. I guess I don't, and let me see if I can find it. It's. Obviously, under statute, the Tribune would be the local paper. Here we are. I'm referring to, it's 40, yeah, 400109. And what that section indicates, not the state law provision, is that the official newspaper, is chosen by the electors of the county shall be the official newspaper of the municipality when it is published, talks about legal notices, hold on. So it indicates that the governing body of the municipality annually by resolution in its first meeting in May, we're past that, so I don't have to worry about that because this is the facto change. Or soon thereafter, as practicable, shall designate a newspaper published in the municipality, or if there is not one published, then it shall designate a newspaper circulated in the municipality as the official newspaper, including parks, yada, yada, yada. So I'll have to check that because I thought there was a designation to county, but actually it seems to rest on circulation. So the journal circulates here, presumably in the, I guess the local Herald circulates. For some reason, I thought you had to go with the official newspaper of the county, but I guess I have to go through the statutes again.
Yeah.
Let me check one more statute. I know there, let me check one more. Sorry, guys. Those are the requirements for what?
And again, this would just be temporary, you know, so. Yeah, I want that just in case. We're hoping that it is purchased locally, we have a more, and continue to have a more of a newspaper.
I actually don't see a designation relevant to county in this provision, and I can do some checking. You should certainly have a backup. I don't know why I'm misremembering that, but both are circulated here, so presumably there would both be an option. Yeah. The journal, or not the journal, the Tribune. They
We want to table it to the next meeting?
if they're departing on August 30th. Oh, that'd be fun, that's pretty. Close.
Still,
Good. And it's doable. And she said she could run the first week, probably in September, Abby? Yeah. Okay. September 6th. You guys can give what if you want to think about it, maybe we should just double check the statutes and cross our fingers that if somebody buys it.
motion, oh, second.
Temporary.
I guess the only other thing I'd be aware, and I'm not trying to influence this, I'm just trying to run this through my head because I haven't thought about a conditional situation. You would have the redesignation if the journal fell, and we had a conditional appointment or designation of an official newspaper. Then actually, I think you would have to run that newspaper until May because of the statute. If you wish to redesignate, you would have to wait until May, presumably to redesignate. I mean, that's, and we can check that. I don't know that, but presumably, I think that's probably how that would work because it specifically says that we redesignate every May.
But it's would be a local now, we can have a local official, which.
Second. Motion that we both second.
We just table it till the rest of the meeting.
Ryan, we also kind of indicate that the motion died, but
We'll leave it back. I just need to.
Well, we got 2 weeks.
you can move to table it. That's a separate motion. You can table the issue or move that it be placed on the next agenda for further consideration. Well, I can't make it, so your first thing, so.
It'll be on the agenda next time, we'll just deal with it.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, that motion. All right. Good as one. Let's move on to the easement for pipeline on Mungie property, and I believe Dan has got some information on this. I have.
Josh would know more about it.
Okay, Josh, are you still there?
Liz knows a little too. Liz assisted with the easement. Abby, this was in connection with, is this the, which project is this? I'm sorry, we've got multiple.
It's
easements.
for the KSI, so what happened is we did purchase an easement from, Carrie Lungi. However, it came to light that there is, an extra area that has a pipe. Or a pipe is needed, and, they're gonna send you the paperwork. It's something that we can table until the next one, so you guys can see the paperwork, but we're looking at maybe $3,000 more for that. Of that extra area for the pipe.
So did it just fall out? Because we had the line and then we had the lift station. So did it just fall outside of the original?
It's, but yeah, it's actually, outside of the line of where the lift station is. Oh, yeah. And we should have, yeah, we should have. Our engineer should have known it. Unfortunately, it's something we didn't catch until now. So we're looking at maybe the purchase of,
Just some additional footage.
some additional footage.
Yeah, there was a culvert from the state highway that came underneath, that was where the line would not be allowed to go through.
Oh, I see.
For
There was
state.
an obstruction where the
So
line.
there's
was, so we
obstruction,
have- I got you.
and so they had to move it into that, so anyway, it was kind of an unforeseen obstacle, I guess, hurdle to do that, so that's why they're here for that. And Carrie did come into the office and we went through that and had a conversation with Josh on that, so.
Do you know how much Perry is looking for the purchase of that, so that the commissioners can consider it?
They were, well, initially looking at the easement and the footage. And the initial thought was around 200 feet, 175, 200 feet. I believe was the number, and based on his experience of other easements in the oil field or other individuals, there would be about $3,000. With the conversation with Josh afterwards, there are other easements that would be crossing over and through. So it seemed that, you know, whether we have to pay for that, for our easement to go through that or not, or to utilize that footage of easements of crossing the other easements, you know, if we had to pay for that or if that's a negotiable thing or not, I guess that was kind of a question. Or not, but according to, obviously, to the owner and Kerry, for his interest, he thought $3,000-ish was sufficient. And was a fair price, based on a 200 foot easement.
Probably estimated by the rod, maybe. A little more linear.
He's used the broad
Okay.
terminology.
Not much we can do about it. Just so it is just for the 2,000. Okay, I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All right, there's a motion and a second. That's.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, now we have reimbursement for property damage.
What you guys, have in front of you is a reimbursement, for the Russ, Avenue, land. He did, have it corrected to the way it was prior to the construction. So, he went ahead and requested for reimbursement in the amount of $1,648.80. It's for them to put the rock back how it was, to put the riprap, and to make sure that it's fixed the way it was prior to construction. This is the construction on South Main. So what we can do is add this bill to Terraflex. So that it can be refunded back to the city on the back end.
One of the stipulations the contractor has is they're supposed to put it back. Yeah, brought in. Just didn't. Wants it to look nice. We did. Go through the channel. I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion second.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. Letter of interest. Community signature.
So, seven letters of interest. One was for Jeremy Wally. From Ben Johnson. Nathan Germanson. Robert Arms. Pat Alberts. Kristen Bowman. Shelby Davis. And there was one more, she actually texted Kevin and he wanted me to submit it to you guys today since he could not be here from Wendy Lenson. I would first advise that you guys choose how big you want the committee to be. You want it to be 5, 7, 9-member committee. And then make a decision on who to choose based on the members that you guys will.
Appreciate the letters of interest for this, and I think we've got some really good people there. I would, just like to point out that our public notice, it stated to qualify members must live within the Tioga city limits. Eligible interested parties may submit their letters of interest to Tioga city. So, I would, you're not in the city, you didn't submit a letter, I wouldn't consider that. So.
You guys should probably talk first.
Mr.
about-
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes, indeed.
Nathan Germanson, my question is, why a member of in the city limits? I mean, they're gonna be an advisory committee, you're not giving that committee an open checkbook, they're not gonna be spending taxpayer dollars. It's the Tioga Community Center. All those names, though they don't live in town, are members of our community, so. I don't know, I questioned that when I read it in the paper, why leave it to city limits, because they're not gonna be spending tax dollars, they're just going to be advised, so. I just asked for a clarification of that.
Yeah, I get it. If we are gonna open it up, I mean, it'd be more fair to maybe open it up to everybody.
Well, I mean, there was a previous member on the board that didn't live in city limits. And I feel really wanted to be back on the board. We're talking about
You can do a blended composition too, because you guys are talking about the fabric of the committee, how many and of what qualification. So, I don't want to weigh in whether that's a good policy decision or not to open it entirely, but if the concern, and you're right, Mr. Gervon said that at this point, they are advisory, they don't hold power in purse. I think, as I understood it, and I could be wrong because I didn't participate necessarily in the drafting of the notice, but I think one of the concerns is that ultimately the funds would be borrowed on the city's back, whatever came to fruition. And so there was a concentration on making sure that the taxpayers of the city were participating in the committee. But I don't want you to think it's an all or nothing game. You could have a constituency, for example, if I'm not suggesting the 7-man, but for example, you could say, of the 7-man committee, 4 must be within the city limits, 3 could be outside. I mean, it's not all or nothing. You can accommodate both principles if that's something you guys think is important or not, but open that up.
I just want to say that I didn't make a decision on how it was published, but some of the reason was because it was, the monies would have been from the city of Tioga, and that was the reason for it.
Come up. I agree with Nathan. You know, this is a community event. And I see. Again, we have a lawyer and an auditor speaking instead of our elected officials. You guys are elected officials. Neither one of you two are elected. So I would like to hear voices from you guys because you're part of the community. Even if you don't live in town, we've all lived in town our lives. So we come to town every day. We spend our money here. So why wouldn't we be counted the same as the citizen of town? Like what?
All I was saying was run it again.
I don't think Mr. Anderson understood that I was actually, maybe agreeing with the principle that a blended committee would allow for both, but that's okay. People misunderstand me often.
I would like to make a motion on the app to allow outside the city to apply also.
I'll second that.
Right, very good.
I think it's important to get this right, so I think the more voices we have on that, better. So
Do you guys want to discuss the constituency? I mean, do you want to decide the member?
I'd like to see the interest what we get.
Or you decide that, that's fair. I mean, I just want to make sure we're all cooking with gas here.
we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. Run the ad again. Restate this. Allow people from outside the community to be on this board.
Mr. Chairman, do you want us to reapply then? Those that already did, or you'll hold them?
Time sheet.
Automatic punch card, but for now, we need to update what we have. So I'm taking a motion to, the new.
I'll second.
Second. Yes.
Yes.
Passes. Westgate. Anybody go for that?
Commissioners, I'm Matthew Scholes with Westgate Lot 125. I'm one of the newest on this Westgate project. We do have interest in the old city hall and police station because of the age of the building, and we do know, I talked to Dan, I reached out. We just want to find out. I know that there are ideas of tearing down the building for parking lot and such. I do know. So really for us is what we're looking for is we're looking for what you guys would want from us. Like reimbursement if you guys did not want to turn on.
I apologize, but what is Westgate Lodge 125?
We are entrance free and accepting use of lodge here in Tioga. We currently reside on upstairs of the fire department on the east end of the building. So we're looking for a place to call them. That's really what we're looking for. There's different functions. We do hold stuff for the seniors, after graduation party. We do give back to the community as much as we can. So what we're looking to do is find our own space. We used to have one in the old church that was right here where now the police station resides. So that's why we're here, because I'm the only one here, everybody else is old and sick, so I'm filling in for them. So for us to do it, it's a kind of a big deal. We'd have to go through our Grand Lodge, which is in Fargo. We have to get approval, they'd have to come and look at the building. We've never been turned down. And I have been in contact with our worshipful lodge members, and I have brought it up to their attention that we are kind of looking at the building, but we do not want to step on anybody's toes in the city. So if you guys have different, ideas with the property and you don't want to give us a shot at it, that's, we wanted to bring it to your attention that we're interested.
We are kind of short today. We're missing 2 members. It would be nice to get input from a full board.
Well, I would like to have my other guys here too, because, we do have ideas of what we'd like to do and what, at the end of the day, we're looking for a long-term use is what it is. We don't want to purchase the building. The Grand Lodge will not let us purchase the building. So, if something, so we could obviously table this to the next meeting too, so I could have more to say. I kind of got rushed in here because I was the only one available. But we have a lot of ideas, for the long-term lease, the upkeep of the building and all, redoing the inside of the building. We do know that there would be a recoup. The city's already got money invested into the building for cleaning out the asbestos that's in there. But structurally, the building is still good. So, that's just kind of where we're sitting. And I guess it really comes up to you guys.
The Masons have and I should know this, but I don't. Do you guys have a lease form? Do you have a proposed form of lease? That doesn't have to put dollars and cents, but just.
We do through the Grand Lodge. This was just kind of getting our foot in the door because obviously our lawyer would probably have to talk with you, I would imagine. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how that all works. I don't know when it comes down to the funding and all that. I just know that we were interested. Obviously I called Abby and talked to Dan, and we got to go through the tour of why they were cleaning everything out. Then it's a cool building. Who doesn't want a jail cell in the building?
There is a reason we were tearing it down. I'm not sure about the structurally sound part. The asbestos has been remediated. I'm not sure about the mold.
Well, and that's all stuff. So one of my brother, he's a retired, I don't know what the exact word is, but he did all the cleaning for like Hess, removing asbestos and stuff. So he's not certified anymore. But when we did walk the building, he did notice like the mold, obviously the roof, windows, stuff to make it more energy efficient nowadays. And we understand that would be a cost out of our pocket. And, we would not come to the city looking for any money for anything like that. We do have money, just not, we were just glancing around and we said, boy, we could stick $1 million in here, no problem. So that's what we're seeking is long-term lease, and when we're talking long-term, we're talking like 50 to 100 years. Doesn't mean that the charter is going to be here forever. We already lost it once. And then actually not till like 2012, I think is when they got the charter back. So we got rechartered here in Tioga.
So. Seems to me I heard. City gave there's some land on Highway 40. So. That could be. Nathan maybe. You never knew, heard that?
That would be news to me. Some of the guys that I deal with, they've been here forever and they've never mentioned that. I know they looked at a property on 40 That's, that was brought up. I mean, we've looked at a couple old buildings and Dan showed us a couple other different ideas too, but just because of the fact of it being a brick and mortar building is really what contempts our eyes, so.
Motion to table. Table this issue. Okay, number two. Rich. Sir?
Yeah, can I have you? Oh, yes. Which one do you want?
I just want to be able to contact you for that.
715 663 067. Yeah. Thank you.
So.
Good evening, Chief Nelson, Tioga, please. I have for here a application for the 1% grant that I'd like to take forward for them. I guess I'll preface this by saying that this year, similar to last year, I attended the annual Chiefs of Police Conference. This year, the topic of discussion during that seemed to revolve around active shooter and civil unrest. In sitting in that conference, I recognize that there is a series of items that I would like to address regarding the planning and the equipment that we're carrying with us into these situations currently. One of the pieces of equipment that we rely on quite a bit in any type of high-risk situation, or should we go into one of these situations, would be our patrol rifle. And so we do currently have patrol rifles in each car. However, I'm looking at upgrading these patrol rifles to a rifle that will accommodate a suppressor. This will give our officers the ability to enter one of these situations, utilize it if necessary, but then also be able to maintain their hearing. As right now, our current rifles do not have any type of suppressor or way to muffle those shots. So obviously, when we're watching TV and we hear gunfire, we have no issues with hearing after that. But I can tell you, from not having hearing protection while firing one of these weapons, you're not able to hear much of anything for the next half hour. So the total amount that we're seeking for the rifles, rifles, and the silencers and the suppressors, rather, excuse me, would be about $15,551.94.
I'll make a motion to approve to take the application to the owners.
One second.
A motion and a second, vote,
Yes.
Yes.
motion passes. Thank you. We got Pine Ridge.
We can discuss that. I don't know that we had enough hearings. Abby, can you kind of just share the background, the lead up in the last few days? As I mentioned, in legal, and then I'll have Abby share the details. There was the discussion of a special assessment. Recall that Josh had discussed that during during his presentation. The initial estimate years ago was approximately 600,000. It was just bid, small, rejected or declined the bid because the bid came in at about 1.13 million, more than twice as much. Of course, Pine Ridge's position was that, boy, we would have to protest this assessment essentially because the expense would be so great that we couldn't afford that in the form of a special assessment or otherwise. Appropriately, we kind of stopped course there with the special in the meeting because it wasn't feasible if they protest and they're the only party, then it becomes problematic and unpursuable. So I'll let Abby discuss that further, but we kind of talked about, and Josh mentioned other avenues, one of which may be vacating the city streets because they dedicated the streets, provided them to us so that we could do this. But the estimate was too high to deal with in a special, so now we basically need the commission guidance on options, or if you're open to options, something like vacation, perhaps they're planning for them for construction, provided that they return the streets back to us when complete. So,
Yeah, as was stated, we had a meeting with the owner of Pine Ridge. And he felt that the estimate was entirely too high. And they can do a better job. However, the city, because now they transferred over ownership to the city, it's in the city's name, so it would be a liability on top of, we have to follow North Dakota Century Code. So he is suggesting that we give it back to him so that he can fix the streets. And when they're done, he would return them back to us, so that the city can maintain the streets and whatnot. And so I called this, I told him I would have to seek first guidance from this. And she would suggest that we can do it, we can return those streets back to him. But we would have to follow the procedure of vacation. So at this time, we just wanted to see what your guys' thoughts are, and see what your guys' decision is. If the vacation is what's needed, then we would, and you guys do approve that and make a motion, then we would, follow the procedure to vacate those streets and put them back into their.
as Abby indicated, that was, and I failed to mention that, so I appreciate Abby raising it. That was a concern, Pine Ridge was willing to do the work without the transfer, but from the city side, we can't do that. So as Abby suggested, we have bid requirements, we have bond requirements, we have insurance requirements. We can't operate in the same fashion that a private owner would for construction. We have many more constraints. And so that was another, we don't want to put the city in a liability situation or run afoul of the statute or obligation, even if it might be less expensive, so to speak. I don't know that, but.
And I also did mention to him that they would still have to follow the city specs. And keep the construction to the city's level of what is required.
So it could turn into another Annabelle, right?
Well, if it's Annabelle, they would own it all. Unfortunately, this Annabelle, we owned it when it was completed. And we've been inspection. In the house. This is gonna be, they own it. If it is something that's not to the city specs, then we don't accept it. The commissioners don't have to accept it.
And that's a good question, Bob, but yeah, that would be, if we were to contemplate taking it back into our possession and maintaining it, as Abby indicated, that would be very much conditioned on the fact that it was.
So you would have that choice and turn it down once they offered it back to the city.
We would be able to turn it down, absolutely, if they didn't meet with conditions. Yeah.
You wouldn't.
I'm not going going to recommend anything. I'm going to tell you that that's a possibility and that Pine Ridge with Abby, and Abby can speak to that because she spoke to them, but they understandably seemed very concerned about that price tag and an inability to meet with it.
I'll make a motion just because I can see on.
Motion.
Thoughts, Tim?
I think we've come this far. I think they can do it. It's not gonna do it. I don't blame them for it. They could assess that much to properties in there. It's possible.
And they were a successor taker, weren't they? Am I remembering that? Because Pine Ridge occurred before I was here, and remember that was the issue where there was a contractual issue, and I came on right when we were trying to figure that out because there was a problem with the bond, and then the original owners that maybe provoked that issue. I don't want to lay blame, but these guys are successors in interest, so they weren't the root cause of the failures that occurred out there. I mean, for what it's worth, and fairness to the present owners.
I thought it was iffy at 600,000.
Pretty big debt.
One thing they did say is that they don't want to not be able to pay it. And it's that even if we sold the properties we had, we can still not be able to sell. 1.2 million or 1.1.
I mean, I get it. He wanted to clean it up and make it.
That's
They were on the street. Just trying to find a solution.
I'll second the motion.
Motion in a second.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, so, plannings, applications.
With the poem, but just a quick rundown of everything that's cool.
Have a building application from Dennis Rayhawk, planning and zoning recommends. We have an application from Ed Garcia for a preliminary and final plat. Planning and zoning recommend approval for that. And we have an application from Dan Poro. NVN, LLC for a variance application. Planning and zoning need a recommendation to deny based on the property, which is Skyway Estates being zoned as single resident. The mobile home park is not a multi-family dwelling park. We have Pledge Holdings as of from the Bank of North Dakota as of July 11, 2023. 3 local charity permits, one from the Lions Club for raffles. There's a high school class of 2025 for and pickup study. And the price will be $60 per week. For the Tioga Fire Department for bingo and raffle. Payroll for July 21st, 2023, and payroll for August 7th, 2023, and the bills for July 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion, second. Vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Passes. That's all for tonight. Motion.
I'll second.
Yes. Thank you. Everybody for coming.